Before we start, I want to inform you that this webinar is being recorded and will be available on the Nordic Sustainable Construction website shortly after the weekend, along with the presentation slides. Let's take a look at our agenda. It's going to be short and straightforward. I will start with a brief overview of the project, and then Aðalsteinn will dive into the report's details. The report has already been published and can be found on the Nordic Sustainable Construction website. At the end of the event, we will answer questions. On the right side of this presentation, you can find a QR code which brings you to the Slido where you can add questions. I encourage you to have it ready now so you can add your questions as they come to mind, but you can also find the QR code on some of the slides throughout the presentation. And we expect the event to take around 45 minutes, of which 15 minutes go to questions. Nordic Sustainable Construction is a program under the Nordic Council of Ministers, which contributes to the Nordic Vision 2030 of becoming a sustainable and integrated region in respect to sustainable construction and housing. The program consists of 5 work packages. The Ministry of Infrastructure of Iceland is responsible for the 4th one, emission-free construction sites. Green Building Council Iceland and the Housing and Construction Authority of Iceland supports the ministry in solving the assignment. Aðalsteinn and I are employees of Green Building Council and the main authors of the report being presented today. The aim of Work Package 4 is to reduce carbon and other direct emissions at construction sites by supporting the transition towards emission-free construction sites. On the NSC webpage, you can find previously published reports, videos from site visits, and other materials. We have also distributed several newsletters providing updates on our progress. The newsletters also include relevant reports and news concerning emission-free and zero-emission construction sites. You can sign up for this newsletter on the website of NSC website as well. Right now, we are working on our next delivery, that is guidelines for how to plan, procure, and evaluate emission-free construction sites. We aim to publish those guidelines this summer, and then we have the report on standards, rules, and regulations that can be hindering being published later this year. Now Aðalsteinn will take over.
Yes, thank you, Ástrós. Yeah, as Ástrós said, there's a new exciting report from us, knowledge gaps and research needs. And the content of the report is all over the place. We start with the planning and design phase of construction, and then we go into the assessment of the environmental impacts before we then enter the core of the construction, the energy use and the waste produced during the construction. Regulations and incentives, we also touch on that. And lastly, we delve into sustainability aspects of construction and within that, the construction sites. Yeah, but why are we doing this? Emission-free construction sites is, yeah, we call it a new field that is looking into the construction site emissions. And well, as with building and construction, it's always better to know what you're doing. So we need more knowledge on how to overcome barriers, and then how to then from that to develop best practices, and hopefully very quickly build industry knowledge. And there you see the QR code for Slido. Okay, let's start with the beginning phases of a building construction project, well, or any construction. As with cost in projects, you probably know that in the beginning, when in the planning and design of a project, the cost is, yeah, to a large extent locked in there. But the same goes for environmental impacts and carbon emissions. So it's important to tackle carbon early in the planning and design processes. And this is, well, designers know this. So they, well, in my opinion, they tend to focus on building materials and also then the operational carbon or the carbon emissions from the operational phase, like for heating and ventilation. But we want to put more focus on the construction process, the transport of materials and installation on the construction site. And this starts all with planning, even like countrywide planning of activities, and then the typical urban planning or city planning. This can have impacts later on the construction site of each construction. And we need to know more about this. What are the impacts on planning decisions? We can take like transport of bulk materials. That is very energy consuming. Can this be somehow already in the planning phases minimized? Is clean energy an option in this location or area? And so on and so on. And then the design. How does design impact construction site emissions? Yeah, we need more knowledge there. How is the initial phase of construction, the earthwork, the founding of the building? Transportation, is light building material better than heavy somehow? And like in this picture, new methods like CFT, how does that compare to other methods when it comes to the construction site? So in the report, we have these like high-level recommendations that could then be like interpreted into research projects, and we want to know how do these pre-construction phases influence emissions in the construction. Material transport, how is that influenced? and the building types and materials. How do different choices affect the on-site emissions? Okay, let's go on. Assessment of environmental impacts. And there's this cheesy quote from another field, actually. But you can't improve what you can't measure. So we think that this is important to do. Firstly, we have to define what to measure and how. We have this tool, LCA, Life Cycle Assessment, that is well known in the industry. And we recommend that we build upon this. And this frame picture is taken from our previous report, that is based on the European standard for defining the construction site in LCA. And we find that this is useful for further work in the field. But it's complicated, maybe especially for construction sites. There's complicated transport routes. There's many complicated construction processes, and there is limited data. Things are moving, but we need more data about projects, and today there is great variance between projects, so it's really difficult to know overall in the industry what the emissions are for the construction phases. So simple in this context, and this is being develop and harmonize a Nordic framework for measurement and assessment, and improve knowledge on emissions related to modules A4 and A5. We use these A4 and A5 phases. These are LCA speak for the construction site. Okay, let's go into, well, now we are at the construction site, as you can see. And what most people think of when we speak of construction site emissions. At first, first, when it comes to energy and use of resources, we should first minimize the energy use, and then the rest of the energy, well, the energy we have to use, that should be clean. But the contractor at the site, he has only so much control over how much energy is needed to build the house. But there we might find methods to minimize waste of energy, so that the energy efficiency of the construction process is high. And then when it comes to clean energy, what has been done in the construction industry, good examples from Norway, is to adapt technology from cars, like putting drivetrains from electric cars into construction machines, and now both construction machines and heavy trucks are available in battery electric versions, and this seems to be working fine. So we don't really need so much research into the clean energy for construction, because we can get it from the transportation industry, but we have to look at adaptation to these special circumstances at the construction site. That's, for example, energy infrastructure. Is there, for battery electric machinery, can they be charged at the site? And peak loads, typical situation at a construction site, experience from Norway. The charging is done overnight of machinery, and then there's fast charging during the lunch break. And research has been done on the peak load during the energy used during the first phases of the building. It's more than the building will use later. So this affects also the distribution in the area or in the city, that part of the city. And this is something that we should, the industry should look at. We already have some experience with battery electric trucks and machinery, excavators, but hydrogen is coming, I think. We've been saying this for a long time, but like with batteries, the fuel cell that will be the main driver of hydrogen machinery and trucks is very expensive now, like batteries were many years ago. So people are hoping that the price will become lower very soon. But then we need infrastructure for distribution of the hydrogen. But this can be useful and solve some problems with the charging of batteries. And as you see on this slide, there's as always when it comes to this, SINTEF in Norway, they have so much of nice stuff. Like they looked at site, actually infrastructure project or site, where there were simply not enough electricity for the machinery used there. So, this site could be made zero emission site with hydrogen, possibly. So for energy in construction and transport, because we see transport of materials as part of the construction site. So first, use less energy if possible. Improve energy efficiency. And yeah, look at more energy options than just batteries. For example, hydrogen. Some countries may be biofuels. And then adapt to the construction site. Find methods to manage the energy and energy infrastructure at the site or around the sites. Okay. Still at the construction site. This is also interesting because it turns out from recent research that waste, as we define it at the construction site, is produces a lot of emissions. Because as this is defined, what we proposed is defined, is that the emissions from production of wasted building materials, they should be attributed to construction site emissions. This is for the correct bookkeeping of emissions in the building life cycle. So it's not only well, handling of the waste, it's actually the embedded carbon in these building materials that are not used and well, become waste. But we say waste is just new material for other purposes. And that leads directly to something that could be investigated further. And there's a lot to talk about it, because we can't prevent waste, but we should use it as a resource and as yeah, try to at least recycle, but preferably to upcycle. Try to use yeah, material that yeah, is maybe cut off at the construction site. Use it somehow in new buildings or other buildings, or somehow to preserve its value. So for construction waste, which is also just material resources, but overall we should investigate the life cycle of the waste to investigate what is it, how is it managed, what are the emissions, and what in the building causes the waste, and then reuse, if possible, at least recycle materials. Okay, carrots and sticks. This is fun. Regulations and incentives is the proper word, but it's often called carrots and sticks. And this is used now in the industry. but we could do more. We could have bigger sticks and sweeter carrots. Green public procurement has proven to be very effective. Again, Norway has shown that we have some excellent examples. We could copy those methods. This is actually a combination of sticks and carrots. There are requirements about some emission reductions on the construction site in a building, and the city or city council or whoever, he gives then pays higher price for the project. Then we have the limit values that the Nordic countries are developing, where there are construction projects must be under certain limits for emissions in for the building projects. And yeah, the construction site, the A4 and A5 phases are, well, in some countries in and some countries out, but eventually it will be included in the limit values, as I understand it. Then from the finance sector, because they're also in this game. They have to be green in their investment portfolio, so they offer green financing. So and this is very useful for the capital-intensive construction sector. But then we place some requirements on the construction, but we have to follow up. We have to evaluate the results. We have to monitor what is happening there. But overall, yeah. For example, from the work on the limit values, we know that there's a delicate balance needed between the ambitions and the practicality of the work. So, in this regard, we have two ambitious criteria, but they have to be attainable. We have to get private companies into the game, not only public procurement. And we have to follow up to see what is being done, how it, if the criteria is followed. Okay, to the last chapter, because this is the project Nordic Sustainable Construction. But the most sustainable building is the building that is not built. How do we do this? This applies to the whole construction sector, of which the construction site is a part, and has considerable part of the emissions from construction. And what we see here is a picture from the IPCC of the United Nations. Intergovernmental Panel for Climate Change. And this is the latest report. And we see the global greenhouse gas emissions. And we see that 2020 we are up to close to 60 gigatons per year, and it's actually estimated that 2023 in 2023 the emissions, greenhouse gas emissions, have are more than ever before. So, like, what, 10 years after the Paris Agreement, and after 30 years of discussion about climate change, emissions are still growing. And this panel of scientists have found out that to keep warming below 1.5 degrees or below 2 degrees, you have some carbon budget. And they have found out that to prevent disaster, we have to cut emissions now, and by a lot. And we are not running out of time. We are actually out of time. We are, yeah, we probably have missed the 1.5 degrees target. And in my opinion, well, I cannot see any drastic cuts in carbon emissions globally, well, in the next 2 years. So, well, it's kind of scary, and we have to yeah, we have to step on the gas. No, that's a bad phrase. We have to do something now. But at the same time, the economy is growing, and the construction market is well, expected to grow in the coming years. We are building more and more houses. So how can we do that at the same time? We have to somehow, we have to yeah, look at the whole picture. Yeah, there's something that isn't adding up here. And well, I think most of us, when we think about climate change, is